Welcome to Chai Chat.
Welcome to Chai Chat. So you didn't grow out your beard, huh?
You know what happened? I got one of those new licenses.
What?
The driver's license thing. What do you call
Real
it?
ID?
The real ID?
The real?
So I'm like, I'm probably not going to keep the beard I knew realistically, so I just trimmed it for that picture. Because last time I took a picture for my license, which lasted 12 years, I had a big nasty beard, and I regret it every time. I was like, show your ID, please.
But okay,
Look, I'm not a terrorist, I
how
promise.
many people look at your ID? I mean,
Once in a while. This is my new one.
Why don't you smile, though?
I've never smiled in a picture in my life. Look, no offense.
Have you ever smiled in your life?
Yeah. I was going to say,
I did that was that one time.
in and out of pictures.
Chai is light today, sorry, cheers.
It's okay, man.
No, it's not.
Are we recording? Okay.
So yesterday was the day of vocations, right? On the calendar?
Which
When they're watching this, it'll be a few days before. So on our diocese calendar, I've never heard of this in my life. It's Day of Vocations.
Yeah.
Okay.
This Sunday, the fourth Sunday.
Maybe it's like a church-wide thing.
Yeah, it might be
Maybe
a
it's like
Catholic
universal.
church thing.
Should I Google it right now?
Google it.
You know what people ask me all the time, actually? So is Father Enkidu a monk or a priest, or was he first a monk or first a priest?
Yeah, what's the difference?
Somebody calls me a meest.
Meest?
Yeah.
Monk? Bro, come on, man. Come on.
Prunk.
Okay, guys. USCCB World Day of Vocations, April 25th.
Okay.
So it's
USCCB
Monday.
World Day of Vocations. That's
Yeah.
kind of funny.
Wait, it didn't pass.
That's America's
25th is tomorrow, isn't
Yeah.
it?
They'll be watching it on.
But they're watching it on Wednesday.
Yeah. Okay, great. So
What about
what's a
vocations?
meest? What's a meest?
Oh no, somebody came up with this. It's not an official
I
thing.
don't.
There's no yeah.
But you're a meest.
So monk priest. I'm a priest and a monk.
Okay, look, I have a whole blog post that I wrote on vocations, plus
we're
a
gonna
video,
cancel?
plus
Watch
a video at the bottom, and I said I'm going to write this so I never have to talk about vocations
But you
again.
never wrote about why you wanted to become a priest.
No, that's personal. Why do people want to know my personal life? That's weird.
Yeah, it's nice. It's encouraging. A lot of people
encouraging.
look up to you.
Nobody looks up to me.
Okay, some people look up to you.
Oh, you know what we did, by the way, one day? We had an episode on it where we all...
I friggin' told you.
Us three said why we love
Oh
him
yeah,
so
exactly,
much.
exactly. That was the
Why
worst
we learned
episode.
from him so
That
much.
was like 3
Why
minutes
he's our
in one
hero.
episode.
That was the worst episode.
That was for like 3 minutes in one episode.
Okay, look,
You want to do part 2 of that?
look, vocation. let me say a couple of the things that I said, and then I'll stop caring again. Vocation means, the word means calling. It means that there are some people that God invites, that calls, to a special way of life. So one of the models for this is the rich young man who spoke to Jesus in the Gospels, who said, "What must I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus said, "What are the commandments?" The guy answered, Jesus said, "Okay, do that and you'll live." So salvation is about the commandments. Then the young man responded and said, "I do all of these. What do I still lack?" Within that context, Jesus said, "Okay, if you wish to be perfect, go sell all you have and come follow me." So there's the two levels here. One is salvation. Vocations are not directly related to salvation. Salvation is about the commandments and being part of the church and receiving the sacraments. That's salvation. In addition to that, there are some that feel a longing in their heart that he says, well, I still feel I lack something. Then Jesus said, okay, if in that case, sell everything you have. So when Jesus says, sell everything you have and follow me, that's not for every single Christian in the world. Obviously, all of you guys are not doing that. So there are some people that are called to that very radical giving up of everything. In our case, in all 4 of our cases, giving up even marriage and a family. In your case, very literally a vow of poverty. In our case, somehow a commitment to simplicity of life. So these are things that some people are called to. Even those that are called, the young man, okay, well, he went away sad because he had many possessions. So at that moment, he didn't do it. We don't know what he did afterwards. It's not about salvation there. It's about, okay, he probably would always feel that lack in his life, but it doesn't mean he went to hell or something like that. So that's what vocation comes into. People get very confused. I even saw this on Twitter a couple days ago. And I was reading and I was like really annoyed because I already solved this problem. I don't know why people are still arguing about it. But even a couple days ago, they were like, okay, I'm discerning whether I'm called to marriage or a consecrated life. That's a very dumb way to think about it. You are called to marriage by the fact that you are a human being and you have a body and you are part of the species. Everyone is called to marriage. So you're not discerning whether you're called to marry. Oh, I feel like I want to be married. Of course you do. You're a human being. The thing to sort of discern is God calling me on top of that, in addition to that, to some radical self-giving? Okay, that's the thing to think about. And we do it. I have no regrets doing it. But people confuse themselves because they're not really even thinking about what a calling is. People think like, I need a special call to marriage. You don't need a special call to marriage. Everyone is intended by their being a human being to be married and to have a family. Some people are, in addition to having that, called to renounce it for the sake of the kingdom. Okay, I'm done.
Nice.
I'm going to leave.
So you're the first American-born, working Chaldean-born priest?
I'm first American-born Chaldean, right, priest, yeah. Yep. Before me, people who are like sort of around in the church today don't realize how it was before. Before, it was Bishop Francis, who's Bishop Francis Calabat, who was ordained Father Francis Calabat, was ordained. 9 years later, I was the next ordination in all of America.
So you were a big deal, huh?
No, it's not that I was a big deal. It's that we did not have a lot of vocations at the time. When I joined seminary, there was one other Chaldean guy, and all of America is studying for the priesthood. Now we're like swimming in vocations. It's beautiful. We have 5 here. They have, I don't know, in Michigan, 9 or something. There's a couple in Canada. Like God, it's amazing. God's really like blessed us. So Bishop Francis, though, he came to America really young, but he was born in Kuwait. So technically, I'm the first. But I mean, Bishop Francis is as American as I am, so I'm not going to like go around parading that I'm this, whatever. Can we start talking about me now?
So are you the first American-born Chaldean monk?
Oh
Yeah, I guess that's true. I didn't even think about that before.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, we're the first.
It's like, thank you. Could you guys please shake his hand?
Oh, I'm sorry.
we have to.
And you're the first. I don't know what.
What are you?
You're the first San Diego-born. No, you are actually.
Yeah, well,
First,
together.
Yeah, TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'm the first, American-born Chaldean priest TikToker.
Okay, good. That's good. And you're the first. Well, go. You have to be
I
the
don't
first one.
know. I was born in Greece, I
Greek.
guess.
You're the first Greek-born
Al
American
Pashnaya.
citizen
Chaldean right.
Chaldean right priest. See, wow, we're
That's
historic here, figures.
What?
We're going to keep
Yeah,
particularizing
that's
into
true.
one.
So, could you explain to everyone the difference between monasticism and priesthood?
priesthood?
Or did
Like
you become
diocesan priesthood?
Yeah, did you become a monk
So
first,
there's-
a priest first? Just because I know a lot of people are curious.
Technically, I became a monk first, and then I was ordained as a monk. I was ordained a priest. But the difference, so there's diocesan. The difference, so not every priest is a monk. Not every monk is a priest, and there's no inherent relation between the priesthood and the monastic life. Monasticism, like specifically speaking, is actually a radical living out of the baptismal vows. It's attached to the sacrament of baptism, as opposed to attached to the sacrament of holy orders. It's not a sacrament that you receive when you consecrate yourself to God in the monastic life. So it's taking the baptismal vows and living them to their fullest potential, and that means that living in conformity to Jesus, who lives out the 3 evangelical counsels. So the monastic life is living out the counsels of poverty, obedience, and chastity, right, to the fullest extent. It's a total self-giving over to God. That doesn't mean that everybody that is a monk is called to the priesthood. Some are and some are not. So there's a difference between monastic, like religious priesthood, and diocesan priesthood. And the difference is that as a diocesan priest, the priest belongs, is incarnated into the diocese, and he serves the parishes, he lives at the parish, and so on. And the rule now is that they move parishes and things like that. A monastic priest belongs to the monastery, which can belong to the diocese, like in our case does. But his community is the monastery, and whatever the charism of the monastery is, that priest or monk lives according to that charism. Ours happens to be it's kind of like it's kind of half contemplative, half active, and that we also have a parish in addition to all the prayers and study and things like that we do. So a monastic priest, a religious priest, serves the community, and whatever the charism is, ours happens to be having a parish, St. John's Church, and that is our charism. What else? What am I missing here?
So another thing to clarify is, for those that are thinking about it or discerning, okay, so let's say, okay, somebody has a sort of feeling in their heart, okay, I want to think about one of these callings. Then in the case of somebody thinking about the priesthood, the thing to clarify is, I mean, you can correct me, I think it's a clearer way of thinking about it to say, I'm discerning monastic life, period.
Yeah.
Because there's no guarantee, if you go into the monastery, there's no guarantee you're going to be a priest. You're discerning the monastery. What does it mean to discern the monastic life? It's the evangelical councils, but specifically within this community.
Yeah.
So living with others and sharing life with them in every aspect of life. I know you guys live, it's like very radical. Like, you do not get to make your decisions about what you do. You live part of the community. You're no longer a priority to yourself. You are absorbed into this larger whole. That's the sort of beauty of the monastic life. That's what you're discerning, period. Discerning the priesthood, if you are called to the priesthood, or if you're feeling a call to the priesthood is connected, we haven't even talked about this yet, is the service of the altar, fundamentally. So the service of the altar and the sacraments, that's what the priesthood is tied to, essentially. The majority of priests right now are celibate. We have a couple of married priests, but we're not like accepting married candidates right now but the celibacy is something that we're all partaking in as well. But it's the service of the altar, period. Everything else is at the service of that. Monastic life is at the service of the community, which is helping you to discern, helping you to live out the evangelical counsels. That's the distinction. So that's the thing, when they're discerning, don't think, oh, should I be a monk priest or should I be a priest? No. If you're going to the priesthood, this is the default, is the diocesan priesthood. If you feel a call to the monastery, you're feeling a call to the monastery. Priesthood may be a result of that after the fact.
Yeah, and we've discussed this, you and I, because you're the director of the seminary. So how do we help people discern whether or not whether they want to join the monastery or want to join the seminary and become a diocesan priest? I think the distinguishing factor was exactly that. Like, if you want to be a monk, you have to be willing to be a monk, irrespective of whether or not you're called to the priesthood. Whether you'd still be a monk if you were not going to be a priest. And if it's a yes, probably you're there. If it's a no, then there's a good.
And even with that discerning process, there's a big misconception of, okay, if I join the seminary or even monastery, I get ripped away from my freedom. You know, I can't leave whenever I want. There are all these regulations. But I sort of see it in a different aspect, where you become more free in a way, because these regulations, they turn you, the rules, whatever you want to call them, like you guys have a typicon, right? Mm-hmm. And I think all of these are the perfect formula to make someone a more virtuous person.
A typicon is a set of rules.
Set of rules.
For the monastery.
And it helps you to become a much more virtuous person, a person of discipline, and a person that's able to have control over his passion, so on and so forth. And that's why I see it as more of a freeing thing, because I know some people, they sort of get intimidated by all of these rules. You know, I remember when I was a seminarian and we're visiting a family's house or whatever, or at a restaurant, we would always have to leave for curfew. You know, and people would be shocked by that, or we would have to go to evening prayer, morning prayer, whatever. So
that's a good point. So I mean, there are the difference in those parts is there's another fundamental difference. You don't discern joining the seminary. The seminary is not a vocation. The seminary is a temporary life where you live for some number of years. Then you're done with the seminary and you're ordained a priest. That's the thing you're discerning. So seminary life and rules are only for the sake of producing a priest who can function more or less independently. Although it's rough, it's very hard to sort of live alone as a priest. We have a lot of priests that are the only priest in their parish and they live by themselves. That's very difficult, but that's the fact of our diocese. We just have these parishes that can only handle one priest and only really even need one priest. So the purpose of the rules of the seminary is to produce somebody with that kind of character.
Well-grounded.
Well-grounded and able to sort of be independent, though it's a struggle. Whereas the monastic life, no, it doesn't have that. So that's for that reason, and for other reasons, seminary rules are less strict than monastery rules. Because the fact is, in 5 years, I'm not going to be around to watch these guys to make sure
Yeah.
that they're going to be doing this. They need to sort of absorb it into themselves.
For
and so-
monks, it's for
for
life.
monks, no, it's for
Yeah.
life. Yeah. Although let's invite some of the nuns next week to talk about that vocation, because right now we're talking about specifically
Yeah.
male vocations.
That's a good idea.
And let's see if they can come next week.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a big maybe. Cross your fingers. We'll see if they're busy. or
Probably
not.
after
Oh, it's
First
First Communion.
Communion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll be busy.
Oh yeah.
Okay, after First Communion, we're
First
inviting
Communion,
some of the nuns to
Maserat.
come. Okay, and I'll be busy that day. It's an excuse. I actually like them, but I'm not gonna. It's hot in here.
Yeah,
and
we
stuff.
need room here.
We need room, exactly. Yeah.
I wanted to go back to what you were saying about the freeing aspect, and to where Jesus says that he came to set us free from sin. And so, we typically think in our fallen human nature that we want this sense of freedom where we can do whatever we want, but Jesus and the church, as taking from the teachings of the Bible, the church has guided for us how to live our lives, and so that if we follow those rules, we are being set free from the slavery to sin ultimately. And so the monastery and the seminary, to an extent, is like a way to get us automatically there with the life that we live, basically. And so if we live that life and if we truly obey, then just like with lay people, if everybody obeys the teachings of the church, will be free from sin ultimately. And so that's what the life is ordered to, that freedom that Christ offers us.
Okay, let's give an example of that. So we're talking about freedom here, which is a good
Yeah.
sort of side topic here. So, I want to be able to do whatever I want. Okay, do whatever you want. What's going to happen? You're going to find something you're really fond of, okay, that you enjoy a lot. The fact is, it's going to become something like an addiction. So let's say it's something relatively innocent. Let's say you're into playing video games, okay? Everyone's experienced this when they were in their youth. Oh, I really like this. I want to be able to do this. Nobody's telling you not to do it. Your parents are not very strict with the rules. They're not saying you can only do it for an hour a day. You do whatever you want. What's going to happen? Within a little while, you're going to be playing video games for 8 hours a day or 5 hours a day or something like that. Okay. Now you realize, oh man, my grades are slipping. I'm not even keeping touch with my friends anymore. My life is kind of like lousy now. But you can't stop because you're really into it. You're really drawn to it. So now where's your freedom? Now you're not free anymore because you don't want to do this anymore, but you can't stop it because you've basically become addicted. And now replace video games with pornography, with obsession with your reputation, with money. Now, okay, I want to be able to make as much money as I want. Okay, and so you work and work and work and work and you have all this money. Now stop. Now try to stop. You cannot. It's very difficult to do that. Who's free now? Who's actually more free? Believe it or not, the monk that isn't allowed to do things unless, after a certain hour, the seminarian that has to be back at the seminary, he's actually much more free than you are, who are able to do whatever you want, because those rules have freed him from that addiction, or many of those addictions, or gradually their intention is to do that. So,
And that's also a good help for anyone that's discerning whatever, monasticism or the priesthood. It's the ability to make rational decisions. And the only way to make a good rational decision is when you're detached from all these sins that cause someone to be, under slavery, from those certain sins. And I think that's one of the reasons why, there are still some people who join the seminary and leave, who join the monastery and leave, so on and so forth.
that's what it's for. The seminary is also
Yeah.
for discerning.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to be 100% convinced.
Yeah.
I know for 100% fact that I'm going to be a priest. Then the seminary is going to help you figure that out.
Exactly.
Oh, God.
And that's why, so a lot of men that do join, in the seminary teaches you that discipline, and the monastery teaches you that discipline, to where, okay, you start to have more of a way of reasoning throughout this vocation, and whether it is for you or it's not for you, or because when you don't have that way of reasoning through things and sort of wrestling with your vocation and these ideas, it makes everything much harder. Life is already hard as it is, and it'll just get that much harder when we're attached to these things, especially things that are sins. You know, you gave the example of video games or pornography. You know, those are obviously two extremes, but both of them could cripple.
And the bad effect would be not only for a person who's in the seminary or monastery, but it would also apply to somebody who's in a
Right.
marriage, right?
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
if you're attached to things that you shouldn't be attached to, then your marriage and family life will also be bad.
That's the thing you said about the baptismal. It's
Yeah.
really living out of your baptism. Everyone's called to this kind of freedom. So that's why when we say, like, guys, be careful what you do. Don't get into stuff like this. Be moderate. Moderate how you live. It's for your sake, because this is really a kind of damaging thing for your life.
And even when it comes to the vocation of the married life, you know, people that are getting married and sort of see the hardships in their marriage and think about, you know, maybe regrets. Is this really for me? Is it not for me? When things don't really go their way, whether it's with their children or their spouse or whoever it is. I think the best way to understand that is, okay, first and foremost, you're already married. You know, you're married to this person.
there's no
period.
discerning.
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
Like,
There's a fact staring you in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
face.
Yeah.
And if you're not having fun anymore, figure it out.
Yeah, you're married to
Figure
this
it out.
person de facto.
Yeah.
You know, there's no going back from that. But
no more dating.
I think the best way to approach those challenges too, you know, within that vocation of the married life, is to also think about setting, I don't like to call them rules, but setting these regulations and limits on yourself.
Yeah.
And you start to see yourself become happier and live out that vocation the way Christ wants you to.
You know, one of the things John Paul II says in one of his encyclicals, Untitled Chapter, he says that the monastic life is the reference point for all the baptized. And it's a reference point because, again, this is the radical living out to the full extent of the baptismal vows. So everybody to an extent is called to be monkish, you know, to live a kind of monastic life.
Not monkeyish.
Not monkeyish. Yeah. Okay. To live a kind of monastic life insofar as we're conforming ourselves to the life of Christ. You know, we are all called to be obedient and chaste and live a life of simplicity and poverty and so on.
Yep.
But that monastic life is the full extent of that. But it's as a reference point. It is a reference point for the people of the church. You know, and so far as somebody is married, there is an aspect of monasticism that you bring into the family life.
Okay, let me translate that. You know what will make you holy and ultimately really happy? Not getting what you want.
Yeah.
And when you don't get what you want and you deal with that and you struggle with it and you accept it like a freaking adult, that's what's gonna make you.
amazing.
That's what's gonna make you a holier person, and that's gonna give you freedom. That's what's gonna actually make you able to really like love God with all your heart. Because if you're attached to all these things that you can't live without, that means all your heart. You don't have all your heart to give it to God. That means something else has your heart. And I would actually give an example of how married life can do this. You know, you have kids, and I would like to go out and hang out with my friends, but I have kids at home that I need to take care of. You do not get what you want. You have to go home and take care of your kids. And that's good for you to not have what you want.
Yeah, it's good discipline.
Prayer is a really important example of this, because in the seminary and the monastery, I don't care what you feel like doing. It's 5 o'clock, we're praying Ramsha. Drop whatever you're doing. I don't care. We're not going to wait for you. Stop what you're doing. We're all going to meet in the chapel. We're all going to pray Ramsha together. And that forces you to make prayer a higher priority than anything else in your life, because it is. And one thing that really was freeing for me is, because all of us are bound canonically, we have to pray morning and evening prayer every single day. That's by law of the church, by our ordination. Once you're a deacon, actually, you have to pray that. So that's the absolute bare minimum. If we don't pray that, we're committing a sin. It doesn't apply to lay people. Lay people, you're bound to prayer, not any particular form. We have to pray the morning, like we have to pray Ramsha and Sapra. This, whatever I feel, I don't care if I feel like praying it or not. I'm going to pray these psalms in the evening. This is what the church is telling me to pray. Whatever I feel like has nothing to do with it. I'm being formed by the church. And so my preference is irrelevant. One thing that was really freeing to me was when I added to that more than the bare minimum, and I kind of made a rule for myself in addition to the rule of the church. I just made a decision, I don't know, a while ago. I'm just going to pray a rosary. I just decided I'm going to pray a rosary every day. On top of the other stuff, I'm going to add the rosary. That was very freeing, because now it wasn't just I have to do this or it's a sin. It's I'm going to do the stuff that I have to do, and then on top of that, I'm going to give my heart sort of willingly, not sort of under force.
Yeah.
There was a part that I'm choosing very freely, and there's a part that was chosen for me by the church, and I embrace both. That's very like kind of enriching. To kind
And
of
what's
have
central about that point that you made? It's sacrifice.
Yeah.
Everything has to do with sacrifice. With whatever vocation, you decide to,
Yeah.
live out. And
Can we clarify something really quick?
Yeah.
I know you talked about this in your blog.
Yeah.
Vocation is a calling from God that comes from like your heart, right?
Yeah.
Like God speaks to your heart,
Yeah.
but it's a choice that you make
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
follow it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's not this external thing that's coming your way that you are under compulsion to
Yeah,
go.
Yeah.
It's
You're not going to go to hell one way
Yeah.
or the other.
Like
Like
the
I said, it's
guy,
not about morality.
The young man,
Yeah.
he
It's not about
he chose
salvation.
against
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not about salvation or morality.
yeah.
However, like there's going to be something very enriching if you do follow it.
Yeah.
You make the sacrifices. Some days are really hard, some days are really bad, but I repeat, I have no regrets.
Yeah, and so
Yeah, right.
it's
No regrets.
it doesn't have a direct effect on salvation, but it could have an effect on your own life of peace and happiness, and on the salvation of others too.
Mm-hmm.
God using you for His plan and to
Maybe, although the book of Jonah is funny because Jonah was still bringing others to salvation when he was even running from God.
yeah, but
And
maybe
he was
not-
going to Tarshish, those people stopped and
Yeah,
they worshiped
yeah.
Yahweh.
Yeah,
So I wouldn't even
But-
I wouldn't even go that far.
but he ended up going there.
He ended up going, but even when
Yeah.
he was running, he was still being used to save.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm not sure I would go that far.
yeah.
Yeah.
What about this? Okay, this is I don't know how much time we have
we
left.
got to wrap up in a bit.
Okay, just really quick. How about the aspect of loneliness?
You don't have to deal with that, do you?
Next episode.
I don't. Well, no, you don't deal with that as much in the community life because you don't really have the you don't have the space for it.
Yeah.
You're always around other
Yep.
monks.
If you
But
don't
still,
have,
but still, not being married is
if you don't have a good prayer life, it is hell on earth.
You
if
could-
you do, it's livable.
Yeah, you
Like,
could be lonely even when you're surrounded by people.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know who is? Sometimes a lot of married people are because there's issues with the marriage.
Yeah.
They don't feel connected to each other like they used to. Work on it, please. Don't let that stay as it is. With us, it's prayer life. It's also community like among priests. It's also caring about others and having friends and family and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's check it out.
Oh, are we doing this thing?
Yeah.
Did you guys sing last time or no?
No, without you here.
Without
What
me?
he was here. What are you guys talking
No, I wasn't.
Oh, the
Oh,
egg
the-
here.
You guys.
You guys are funny.
I bought Skyrim. Okay, that's my thing. It's
Oh,
I'm 10 years late.
what's
It's an
that?
awesome
What
game.
is that?
It's a game. I bought it on Nintendo Switch. It's really cool. It's fun.
I bought these hangers that are for pants, but I'm gonna use them for my stoles
Oh,
because I didn't know what to do with them.
Nice.
So
You know what I bought. What about you, Father Nkito?
he's gonna say socks. Socks.
I have no idea.
I bought Christ, the Ideal of the Priest.
Oh, that's a really good book.
Not really.
Yeah. By Dom Marmion.
You did, huh?
No, man.
What are you gonna sing?
We're not singing that. This guy opens up Kahnuth and Beth Aaron.
I was gonna say. I was gonna say that as a
Random.
joke. By
That's
the
like a
way.
10-minute long
This is
hymn.
random.
Kinda.
Okay, bro.
I was
be-
gonna try to find the one for Edcho Shaba.
Look, one of the monastic rules is that we don't have internet on our phones. Okay, we don't
Okay.
use internet alone.
Good rule, man.
Yeah, our phones are very limited, so I can't tell you what I got. I don't know if we
Just
even
say the
got
Tolkien thing again, bro.
anything. Yeah, we got another token.
We have to do one we all
Guys,
know.
what's going on here?
Arba? Do we know?
This one's fine.
Sleep.
No.
Why not, bro?
Sapra.
Okay.
You share with him, we'll share with you.
شبح المريا كل أرابها وصبر خرابها ما داثب لمدا لرا والأمور ابن رباح ردح ما نخطم أبين مدمد قليا كسياثا بو بالدينات حيلة كنوثاخ
شو حالة؟
يلا باي.
Yalla, bye.
Cheers.
See you guys.
Yeah?
This is my new one.
Why
That's
don't you
for
smile though?
I've never smiled in a picture in my life.